Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Max and Juan cast. Max, how you doing today, my brother?
Doing good one. MJC Sports welcomes everybody. We're doing something a little new. I'm excited about it. It's been a lot of work,
Yeah.
but let's go.
Let's
Start it
do
off.
it. Let's do it, man. It's been a while. Me and Max haven't done a podcast format in a minute. And me and him both got this idea in our head that we're both old heads. Okay. We both have watched a
Well,
lot of NFL compared to
like
other
90s
people.
and 80s, not
Well,
not the
we're old
50s.
heads now,
Sorry.
dog. We're old heads
Oh
now.
yeah.
Come on. We
You're
got the
30. I'm almost 30.
Come on,
Life's
man.
over.
We're old, man. People be calling us unk and shit. All right. So
Yeah.
look,
No, big bro.
big bro.
Big bro.
So me and Max have watched quite a bit of football. Okay, for your 40 and 50-year-olds, we know we haven't watched as much football as y'all. So we'll try to make through. But look, the main thing is that me and Max want to pay homage to some of the great players from every single position in the NFL. And today we're starting off with safety. Some of these guys are Hall of Famers, obviously, the greats of the greats. Some of these guys are not Hall of Famers. And that's really the whole purpose of this video, really, is to get those guys who are not really getting recognized that played 15, 20 years ago, that people don't realize how good they really were at that time. Maybe it was because of injury. Maybe it's because they played in a class or an era where they played with Champ Bailey or something, or Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Doesn't give them enough credit for the era that they played in. It's just bad luck for them. So today we're gonna start off with safety. And the way that I told Max that there's a lot of old heads, okay, when it comes to all these positions, and we don't want to be disrespectful, but let's just be real. Some of these guys played in the 50s, 60s, some of
Yeah.
these guys in
Sorry.
the 40s.
Yo, Paul Krause. I mean, please, if you saw him play, tell me how good he was. But like, can we all agree the 70s and even the 80s are so much different than now?
Yes.
And I mean, just from when I started watching football, let's just say 2002, and I was like 10 years old or 7 years old. It's way different, and understand that from like 2008 to 2025, like I've been invested in the NFL like almost 20 years. So that doesn't mean these guys aren't good. And I will say one thing about this list. There might be some guys who might not have the accolades. Like you'll see on some of the slides, we did this thing called Legend Score. Like you can be in the same tier as somebody and have a completely different legend score, because this is our
Right.
list, and this is just kind of like there's examples of safeties who are good for such a short time, and it's like, well, what if that guy didn't get cancer? What if he didn't get hurt? It's like, well, those go into it. Like obviously the accolades matter to a certain degree, but like on the field we're talking about mostly, and the accolades are all going to be brought up into it. We're taking a lot into account, but you can't like penalize a guy for being underrated and didn't get the love because he was on a bad team.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like especially going through certain positions, you're just like, how'd that guy make 0 All-Pro teams? He was the best player in his position for like 2 years and then make an All-Pro.
Yeah. So look, I want to start off with these names right here. We're gonna label these guys as old heads, but like I said, doesn't mean that they're bad. It's just we're putting them on their own category.
No, that's what it means. We think they suck. That's what it means.
Okay,
we weren't alive to see Paul Krause.
So Donnie
kick off
Shell,
81 passes.
Donnie Shell, Jack Tatum, Ken Houston, Paul Krause, Cliff Harris, and Kenny Easley are all going in the old head GOATs tier. Max, do you want to say a quick word about any of those guys?
Again, there's some really good safeties again. It's just hard for us to really place them because we didn't get to watch them. There's not like it's readily film available. And even the film that you watch is just a completely different NFL where, guys have horrible throwing motions. You're playing against just guys in the mud. The linemen are 220 pounds one.
Right.
So again, it doesn't take away their greatness. And hey, could they probably play today? Absolutely. I mean, those guys were tougher than probably any of the other guys on this list, right? Like those 50s and 60s guys, they were tough as nails. It was all about toughness.
Right.
Paul Krause is the NFL interception king. Respect. Ken Houston made like 12 All-Pro teams, which is crazy. It's just a matter of, a lot of these guys were, big fish in a small pond.
Right.
And that's where it kind of comes down to. I think that's a great way to say it. It means they were great for their time.
Right.
But the sport evolved, the position evolved, and there's really not much to say.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about Jack Tatum. He's one of my favorite Raiders of all time. The assassin, one of he most known for one of the craziest big hits of all time. He literally paralyzed the guy on the field. That just goes to show you how different the game was and played back in the day, where you can
Do you know
literally,
who that guy was?
yeah, the wide receiver for the Vikings, right?
Patriots. Do you know
Oh,
who?
Patriots,
That's
Patriots.
Derek Stingley's, I think, grandpa,
Right, right.
which
You're
is
absolutely
crazy.
right.
It's a small world,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
So I just wanted
Yeah.
to give a shout out to Jack Tatum, one of the all-time Raiders. Great safety in his time. Shout out to all the old heads. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. I want to start off with they're kind of out of order the way that you sent me, Mac. So I'm just gonna go like this. I want to start off with the
We go
Legion
anyway.
of Boom. I want to start off with
Okay.
Earl Thomas and Kam Chancellor, because honestly, talking about Kam Chancellor, he was one of the sparks that like brought these video ideas. A guy like Kam Chancellor who didn't play all that long, obviously, because he retired early. His legend score is 32. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's only made 2 All Pros, which were both second team, and he's made 4 Pro Bowls.
Yeah, no, this is the perfect guy to start with, because people aren't going to remember that when Seattle made their thing, and again, like when we do the cornerbacks, we'll get into Richard Sherman. Everyone wanted a tall safety. Everyone was like, where do we find Kam? How do we find Kam Chancellor? It was like, how do we get this big physical presence at safety? And let's be real, he was the most feared player while he played.
Yes.
Like, I would say when the Legion of Boom started, when they got to that Super Bowl and kicked Denver's butt, since like till he pretty much retired, I don't think there was a guy more feared than Kam Chancellor.
No.
He brought the boom. He had good coverage, covered tight ends. He was a phenomenal player.
Like you said,
Phenomenal player.
Like you said, I think I wish we can give guys extra points to their legend score, as because the legend score is all based off accolades. But if
Correct.
you really go back into that time, like Max said, like everyone wanted that in the box safety like Kam Chancellor to play the cover 3 system like the Seattle Seahawks. Everyone was trying to find those guys. And I'm just going to lump in Earl Thomas at this point because I think it's fair to talk about them both. Like Earl Thomas, the same thing. Everyone was looking for that rangy free safety to play the cover 3 system. And Earl Thomas was the poster guy for that player.
Oh, yeah.
And we look at Earl Thomas, his legend score is 50. I would say Earl Thomas is a Hall of Famer. I think he has the resume to do it. I think he's eventually going to get in there. He's part of the all-decade team for the 2010s. He's a Super Bowl champ. He has 5 All-Pros, 2 second all-team, 3 first teams, and then he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Pro Bowls.
7 Pro Bowls.
Any words
he
on
just
Earl?
soured. He just soured at the end part of his career with Baltimore. Like, that was a really bad stop because, you know, like the team came out and said he was just essentially cancer. He had all the weird off the field stuff. I would say there is no safety from the 2010s, excuse me, that really captivated it more than Earl Thomas. He was the safety. He was the guy. And again, it was Seattle was the defense of the decade. It was like, how do we build this defense to stop all these offensive explosions? And he was that center fielder, like you said. And I mean, look, he was like a Tasmanian devil. You know, he hit, you know, he took out Gronk's lung, punctured his lung.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to just be physical for a small body because, you know, he was getting banged up.
Yeah.
But again, these two guys are maybe not a better safety tandem in the NFL. If I had to put them into tier 1, I think I put Earl in A and I put Kam at the top of B because I mean, if he just had a few more years, I'd pull him up. But like based on accolades, you'd be like, oh, he's like a D tier player. But no, he was so good.
I'm gonna put them both in A. I think you. Wow. I think you would agree with it because Kam.
Let's put Kam at the top of B, and then at the end of the list, we'll do some adjustments. Okay. I think that's fair because, I mean, he was such a good player, guys, and it's just sad that, you know, he had a neck thing that pretty much just ended it. He only played 9 years, Kam.
Yeah.
And another thing too is he wasn't really sought after. Like, you know, his first couple years, just special teamer.
Yeah. Yeah. The one memorable play that I get from Kam Chancellor are really 2 of them. I remember I'm gonna go 3. Number 1, the Vernon Davis hit on Sunday Night Football. That's what I think of. Number 2, the punch out on Calvin Johnson on Monday
Yeah.
Night Football. And number 3, the hit that he put on Julian Edelman, and this goes more for Julian Edelman for how tough he was, but he hit the crap out of Julian Edelman in the Super Bowl, laid him out. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I remember from Kam Chancellor. It was absolutely insane. He was one of my favorite players. I was a big fan of the LOB when they were first coming out, but definitely big props to those guys. Let's move on. Let's get away some of these high, regarded safeties. And let's start with probably our GOAT. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Let's go to Ed Reed. Ed Reed, probably one of the highest legend scores that we have on, this whole series, I would say. Phenomenal player, bro. I'm going to say it right now. I think he's the greatest safety of all time. That's just my opinion. Max, what do you think?
Ed Reed was the best safety I ever saw. And we've talked about this in previous years of doing the show. There's not a safety now that's a ball hawk. There's guys who get picks, but when Ed Reed got the ball one, it was like, damn, he's gonna go score that. And I know he only had like 12 touchdowns, which is still a crazy amount, but it seemed like every time he got a pick, he had 64 career interceptions, and it felt like, damn, he might have had 64 touchdowns because that's how dangerous he was. I mean, he victimized the Eagles. He had a 108-yard pick return for a touchdown on Kevin Kolb because, of course. But, he did things that shouldn't have worked that worked. I mean, watch Bill Belichick talk about Ed Reed, how he is the greatest player he never got to coach. And I mean, just during his time, it was a lot of Troy Polamalu stuff. But to me, we're going to put him in the top of S tier for me. Arguably, he might deserve his own thing. He was that special. He was that good to me. And this was the first safety I grew up with. Hey, I didn't really get to grow up with Ronnie Lott. He was a little bit before me. And I went back and watched him. But Ed Reed, it was just remember weeks, every week, just seeing him wow. And I mean, he was arguably the best player on their defense for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Super Bowl they won.
One of the most memorable I love from Ed Reed is the mic'd up that he has playing special teams. When he's running down the field and he literally lays a guy out on special teams. That's like everything that you need to know about Ed Reed. Fast flying, playmaker. He was arguably Deion Sanders with the ball in his hands. That's the kind of vision that he had. It was dangerous every time he had the ball in his hands. It was going to be a touchdown potentially. And to me, everyone wants to do the Troy Polamalu, comparison and see if he's better. I'm sorry, bro. I'm Ed Reed all the way. I think Ed Reed is substantially better than Troy Polamalu. And I'm going to bring it up to this because I feel like a lot of people are going to go straight there. Let's talk about Troy Polamalu, Max. And then we'll both rank these guys with Ed Reed and Troy. So Troy, he has an 89 legend score. He has a great resume. It's phenomenal. Some of his stats that he has: 32 interceptions, 14 forced fumbles, 5 touchdowns. Definitely one of the greatest safeties, But when we're talking about this is one of the points that we want to do in these videos. It's yes, you have Hall of Famers, but there's levels to this shit. And I just think Troy Polamalu is just unfortunately not on the level of an Ed Reed. Now, Max, I don't know if you want to play devil's advocate or if you want to agree, play both sides. What do you got to say?
I'll play devil's advocate, even though I don't believe it. But just Troy Polamalu played a different brand of football. He wasn't the Ed Reed ball hawk in the secondary, but I would say this: he was a Tasmanian devil. A little bit undersized, made absolute ridiculous plays. No disrespect to Troy P. I mean, he might not be Ed Reed, but he's the second best safety from the 2000s. I think it's clear cut. I don't think there's a better safety from the 2000s on this list. And he was just a playmaker. I mean, there's plenty of plays where, he jumps over the pile. That's a Troy Polamalu special, when he gets the ball off the turf, just an inch on Phillip Rivers in the Chargers. He was dynamic. He was a great player for their defense. Just in my mind, his coverage stuff could be a little bit he was more like see ball, go get ball, right? He wasn't just
he was very unorthodox, and I feel like that's what made him great. It's because Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, you got to go back and look at some of these interviews when guys are talking about certain players, and when people are talking about Troy, No one really knew what he was doing. And honestly, he didn't know what he was doing until the last very second when the ball was snapped. And like Max said, see ball, get ball. He's just going to make a play.
Let me ask you this, because you said Ed Reed's like, so if you put Troy P in Ed Reed's role, like to do that stuff, you'd be like, it's not nearly as good, right?
No.
I feel like if you put Ed Reed and told him to play with his hair on fire, he would do a better job of playing like Troy Polamalu than Troy Polamalu could play like Ed Reed. Yeah. And that's the difference to me. Yeah. Troy P's an amazing safety. Amazing safety.
Yeah.
Arguably S tier. Now, this is where it gets hairy for me because, I mean, Ed's going in the top of the list. Yes. I mean, it's him or one other guy, to me, would be the greatest safety.
Yeah.
It's just about where would you put Troy? Would you put him at the top of A or the bottom of S?
I would definitely put him in A. Like you said, we can mix match once we start getting these guys, in there. But I'm first reaction, he's A. I don't think he's on the level of S. Great player, but he's just not there.
I don't think there's going to be many guys that are in S, to be honest. I think there's only a couple names.
Yeah. So let's go to Ronnie Lott, Max.
Now, this would be one of the other names in S, just to get it off. I mean, this is accolades upon accolades. This is 4 Super Bowls. This is 8 first-team All-Pros, 10 Pro Bowls. I mean, pretty much 2 all-decade teams, the 75th, the 100th anniversary. Ronnie Lott was a master of everything. He could play some corner. He could play both safety positions. He played in an era that was much tougher than the era we kind of grew up with, the 90s. He amputated his finger. We all know the story. Ronnie Lott, to me, was he had a fear factor about him like a Kam Chancellor. He had great coverage skills. He had 63 interceptions, won 16 forced fumbles. There's not a lot of guys with those type of numbers. And it's just the way he played the position where he was just in total command to me. Just screams S tier. A guy who could play both safety positions at an all-pro level and even some corner, that's special. And Ronnie Lott was special. And physical presence, like I said, part of great defenses, arguably the best player on some of those defenses. Crazy that he never got a Defensive Player of the Year. Really is.
Yeah. Tough as nails, like you said. You hear stories about the amputated stuff, and you tip your hat off to a guy like that. Obviously, me and Max didn't watch him live. We've had to go back and watch these plays that this guy was making
with him.
Yeah, and he was the poster child of those 49er teams. Everyone wants to talk about Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, and deservedly so. But if you look at the defense was stacked, and Ronnie Lott was the guy where it's like you talk about the Niners D, the first guy that comes out of your mouth is Ronnie Lott. And so fantastic player, obviously a Hall of Famer already. So I will put him in the S tier, but like I said, I don't think he's better than Ed Reed. I'm just going to say that. Yeah, I may be biased. I watched Ed Reed, he's my guy, but Ronnie Lott is still great in his own sense.
I would say it's really close, in my opinion. And I will say this for Ronnie Lott. He made his first All-Pro team in 81 as a rookie. He made his last first-team All-Pro in 91. And that's really impressive to be 10 years in and, make a first-team All-Pro.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
You know how much I love longevity, Max, and Ronnie Lott had it.
I know.
Ronnie Lott definitely had it.
For me, it would, if you're building your 2 safeties, it's Ronnie Lott and Ed Reed. Those are the 2 guys.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's the thing. I don't think people realize how good cover skills that Ronnie Lott had.
I feel like because he was so big and he had the big dumb shoulder pads that they just thought he was a hitter, but he really wasn't. He led the league in interceptions twice.
Yeah.
Again, it's more than just about numbers because like we said, Ed Reed's got a lower legend score and he's our number 1 safety. He's a top of S here, but Ronnie Lott's right behind him.
Right.
Just a jack of all trades. Really good player.
Okay, so let's go to some of these guys where a lot of people are not going to remember. They're not flashy, but let's get them over with. Okay. Miloy. Okay, let's go to him. Legend scored 36. He's a Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. Famously traded from the New England Patriots. Yeah, right after that. So that was a big move. He's a 2-time All-Pro. Once for the second team, once for the first team, and he's a 4-time Pro Bowler. Some of his stats: 25 interceptions, 12 forced fumbles, 1 touchdown, almost 1,500 tackles. Max, what do you think about the resume that Miloy has?
Again, really good for a 5-year stretch. You could make the case he was one of the three best safeties in football. He kind of was in that window right before Ed Reed, right after Ronnie Lott. So there was like a gap, right? Like from the time Ronnie Lott retired to Ed Reed, it's going to be kind of hard to find who's the best safety, like who was the best guy. And I thought Lord Miloy, he's solid. This is like a perfect guy to put into C tier to me. He was good. He wasn't special. And again, C tier isn't bad.
No,
Like,
all these guys
this
are.
is C tier amongst the best safeties in football.
Yes.
This isn't like, oh, we're ranking every starting safety and this guy's C tier. No, this guy is still arguably has a Hall of Fame resume. Yes. Now, to me, he's just a really good safety. He's not a Hall of Famer, but people will make that case. He's a part of a Super Bowl team, one of their best players, first team All-Pro. William Miloy's a great player, one. Yeah. Really good player.
And I want to put another guy that I feel like is in this tier. Let's talk about Adrian Wilson. Legend score 34, three-time All-Pro, two of them second team, one of them first team, and he's a 5-time Pro Bowler. Some of his stats, 903 tackles, so doesn't have 1,000, but has 27 interceptions, 16 forced fumbles, and 4 touchdowns. You look back at the era of, those 2000s, Adrian Wilson was always that safety where it's like, name the top 3 safeties in the league. And everyone will go Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, and then Adrian Wilson will be put under the table because he just wasn't as good as those guys, but he was still really damn good. And this is the perfect example of guys where it's like, bro, you just played in the wrong era. You played in the era with Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu, the poster childs for great safeties in that time.
Yeah. If he came around in 96, we might be talking about like 6 All-Pro teams. And let's not forget one. I think he had like 25 sacks, 25 and a half sacks.
Yeah.
He was really known for blitzing, his run support, his tackling, and he was really good in coverage. Again, this is one of the best safeties that's going to just like, in 10 years, no one's going to talk about Adrian Wilson. Like, we watched him, and I would say this, he was really popular because he was hard-hitting, strong, looked like a Greek god, Adonis, whatever you want to say. Adrian Wilson has a special place in my heart. I always remember him, just especially with that Cardinals team that went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's a special player.
Bonafide leader. Captain almost every year.
Yeah. Again, this is a guy, one to me, that screams kind of like a C tier, maybe the bottom of B.
Yeah.
But I think we start him in C tier, and then we kind of final out our list, round it out.
Yeah. So let's get another C guy I'm feeling. And, these are guys that we need to talk about, give them their flowers. Devin McCourty. A lot of guys forget about Devin McCourty. This is a recent guy. He recently retired maybe about, 2-3 years ago. 3-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time All-Pro, never made a first-team All-Pro. They're all second teams. And 2-time Pro Bowler. That's it. Usually guys get handed out Pro Bowls like crazy. This guy only has 2. All right, some of the stats that he has, 35 interceptions, 11 forced fumbles, 4 touchdowns. You look back at some of those Patriot teams, man, and he was literally the quarterback of a lot of these teams, man. He was the leader. He was the guy that everyone looked up to. And I would argue that Bill Belichick trusted the most out of those defenses every single year. What are your thoughts on Devin?
Well, I mean, as soon as you said C tier, I kind of got upset because I think this is a guy who's a B tier. This is one of the best safeties of the 2010s. And I think because this is a prime example of guy that the accolades don't tell you how good he was. He was on one of the best defenses for a majority of the decade. Super Bowl in and out, trust by one of the best defensive coaches in NFL history, Bill Belichick. Again, when he played in that system, it wasn't always about personal stats. I mean, if you go back and look, when has New England ever had a guy lead the league in sacks, right? Put up 20, 15, very rarely, because it was all about the system and, we send pressure and we all do our job. And this guy was he was a pain. He was really freaking good.
He just rarely was out of place.
Never made mistakes. Almost never made mistakes. And that's why I would put him at the bottom of B. I think he deserves it because he was on one of the best teams, played in the biggest moments, and was really productive.
Yeah, like Max said, we'll round out the list. For now, we'll put him at B. I have a feeling some of these guys are going to get moved at the end, but we got Laura Miloy at C tier. We got Adrian Wilson C tier, and we're going to put Devin McCourty at the bottom of B tier for now, but we'll see how that works out. Okay, let's start getting some more of these guys off our list. Let's go to a most recent guy who is still playing in the league. Harrison Smith. Looking at him, he has a 33 legend score, 2-time All-Pro, 1 first team, 1 second team. He's been stacking up some Pro Bowls. He has 6 of them. Some of the stats that he has, they're obviously not over yet because he's not done playing, but 37 interceptions, 12 forced fumbles, 4 touchdowns, about almost 1,200 tackles. Max, what do you think about Harrison Smith?
Well, I would say this. I've never been the big Harrison Smith guy. I think you've always liked him more than me. But I can't deny what he's been able to do. He's been one of the better safeties in football for the majority of his career. Now, there's been a couple years where he was really good, like, arguably the best safety in football for a year, arguably the 3rd best safety. But for my money, there's been a lot of years where there's a lot of safeties I take over him. So in my mind, I would say since 2014 to maybe a couple years ago, he's been a top 5 safety, more like towards the bottom of that list, like 5. So to me, this is like a C, maybe a D tier guy who he's really good. Really good. Again, it just wasn't enough elite. It was just really good constantly.
Yeah, I put a F tier in here. I kind of was debating on not putting it just because, man, it's like a slap in the face. I feel like if we put a guy in F tier, but I feel like he is flirting. Agree. He's flirting with D, that lower echelon of tier. But
especially out of these guys, like who would you take? Who would you take him before? Like almost nobody in my mind.
Yeah,
maybe Malcolm Jenkins, who we could just, if you want to tie him into this real quick.
Yeah, we'll tie him in. And I tell you one thing, I'm gonna put him a little bit higher than Harrison Smith, and for this reason right here, Malcolm Jenkins is gonna go down as a guy that you remember because he was on a winning Super Bowl team. Like when you look back at that Eagle team that won the Super Bowl, Malcolm Jenkins is going to come out of people's mouths. They're going to be like, oh, like Malcolm Jenkins was on that team. He was a really good freaking safety. And then he was on the Saints team, who also won the Super Bowl. It's like he was a little bit less remembered for that one because Tracy Porter's probably taking the poster of that one. But Malcolm Jenkins was the leader, the voice, like the guy who really did uplift those Eagles teams. Like he brought a different type of attitude to that Super Bowl team.
I feel like it's criminal that he didn't make an all-pro team with the Eagles. I feel like it's really criminal because he was so freaking good for the Eagles. Yeah. He was outrageously good. So, I mean, honestly, I put them both in D tier. I don't think we should. I think we should eliminate the F tier just because, like you said, it just seems like a slap in the face. Like F tier just means like, but yeah, they were both good players, really good players. Again, just not near what other guys were able to accomplish.
Right.
Not even close.
Yeah. So I'll get rid of the F tier, but we'll put both him and Harrison Smith in the D tier. Guys who are very recent, but I feel like after maybe about 5 more years, people are not going to remember Harrison Smith and Malcolm Jenkins all that much because they're
outside of the fan bases. Yeah. I mean, in the fan base, of course, these guys are legends. Harrison Smith's a Vikings legend. He should go in the Ring of Honor. Malcolm Jenkins maybe goes in the Eagles Ring of Honor, but everyone will remember them from those fan bases. But guys outside of them, nah, no way.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to a personal favorite of mine. I think this is the time because Bob Sanders. Ed Reed is my greatest safety of all time, but my favorite safety of all time, it can arguably be freaking Bob Sanders.
In your heart. If you were doing this by your heart, where would Bob Sanders go?
He would be S tier. He would be S tier.
I know.
I tell people this all the time, Max. When I first started watching football, I was a huge Colts fan. A lot of people would think it was the Raiders. The Raiders sucked. The Raiders been sucking. So yeah, I was a Raider fan, but the team that I feel like if my brother and my dad weren't Raider fans and I just was one of those kids, I mean, kind of like Max. Like Max played Madden when he was younger. The Eagles were good when he started getting into football. The Eagles became his team and he stuck with them. I feel like if I didn't have an influence on Raiders, I would be a Colts fan because when I started watching football, it was Peyton Manning. It was Bob Sanders. I was in love with Bob, bro. Like Bob was that guy. And he was so essential for the Colts. He was one like
get over the hump.
Yeah, like if we had a podcast at the time and we were like big betting guys, Bob Sanders
to Bob.
Bob Sanders would freaking control the points, the point spread. That's how valuable he was to the Colts. When he played, they were a completely different team on defense.
Yeah, no, he was one of the reasons they got over the hump finally. Like, he brought an edge to that defense. He won Defensive Player of the Year. And again, Defensive Player of the Year for a safety is special to me. Like, you have to be special as hell to win a Defensive Player of the Year at safety. Yeah. Same thing at corner. Like, it's an award made for linebackers and edges and pass rushers. So to win one for them, and it's the year they won the Super Bowl, 2007, the year he won it. He was a huge part of it. Again, the injuries just derailed his career. He was constantly hurt.
Yes.
Constantly. I think I put in one of the slides, like, I think he missed 44 games. That is like 67 or something. Yeah. Something ridiculous. And it's just like, damn, man, like, how many years could the Colts have maybe gotten over the hump if he played? Because this isn't like a guy who was just good. He was arguably the best safety in 2007. He was. Yes. He won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I mean, in my heart, I want to put him in S, but my brain's telling me he's got to go like
B. I'm feeling B. Honestly.
Yeah, B or the top of the C. Like, because when he played, he was so special.
Yes.
Yeah. He was like he kind of reminded me of Earl, but he was like more hair on fire than Earl. Like, again, if you watch him play, you'll be like, oh, I see why he got hurt.
Yeah,
I see why.
He played with reckless abandon, man. Like,
like pulling guard.
He was so small. He was like, what, 5'9", 5'10", something like that.
I don't even know let me look it up.
But he was a munchkin playing safety. He was small as hell.
5'8", 200 pounds.
5'8", but he laid the wood on people. Like, he would smack people
like
on
I said,
the field.
Pulling guard. No problem. Got him.
And it's why he missed so many games. You know, part of it is because he was small. He was a small guy. He played crazy, hair on fire. So he was bound to get hurt. But I'm telling you, man, I don't think the Indianapolis Colts win that Super Bowl in 2007 without Bob Sanders. I say that with very much confidence.
They don't get there. They don't get there without him.
Yeah. And people don't remember how bad that Colts defense was without him. It was glaring, like run and pass defense. They were terrible without Bob Sanders. So I'm going to put Bob at B for now. Maybe we'll switch it up. But like me and Max said, in our hearts, we want to put that boy at S. I ain't even going to lie, man. He was a fan favorite, dude. It's just, you got to be there watching Bob Sanders. If you guys are younger, you know, I really would encourage you guys to go back and watch some of these guys that we're talking about. Bob Sanders was a very fun player to watch. Very fun.
I would love to know like who your safeties were growing up. Anybody watching, like who were the guys? Like everyone's got a Bob Sanders who made you fall in love that time will forget. Like time will forget Bob's. Like one day he'll be an answer like this Colts player won Defensive Player of the Year in 2007. It's like, who? Like Robert Mathis? Like, no, it's Bob Sanders.
Right. Okay, let's go to who should we hit up next? Max, give me a name.
I want to finish S tier.
Okay.
Rod Woodson, he's got to go in. He's ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's go to Rod. Rod's resume. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding him.
No, I think, and I will say this, he's not a for sure safety because he played a lot of corner. And this is something we had to do with Charles Woodson where we're like, we're just going to give Charles Woodson cornerback. We're going to give Rod Woodson safety because, look, he could play if we're building our team, this guy's playing the Bryant Branch role where he's a safety that can cover and he can tackle and he can do it all. I mean, he's ridiculous. He's got a Super Bowl, a Defensive Player of the Year, 9 All-Pro, 6 first team, 3 second, 11-time Pro Bowler, 2-time pick leader, the 90s decade team, the 100th anniversary team, Hall of Famer, NFL record for most defensive touchdowns, most interceptions returned for a touchdown, 12 and 13. This guy was just a baller for the Pittsburgh, for San Fran, for even Baltimore, even Oakland.
Yeah.
He was solid.
Yeah.
I mean, he made his last All-Pro team with Oakland in 2002.
Longevity, man. I want to say he led the league in interceptions that year with Oakland.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yes, he did.
He was at an old age making a bunch of plays out there. You know, he was one of the first guys before Charles Woodson where he was corner his whole first half of his career. And then, you know, you get older, you get a little bit slower. Let's put this guy at safety. and it was a smooth transition. He was still an all-pro safety. You can arguably separate two of his careers, and he has 2 Hall of Fame careers at both positions. That's how great Rod Woodson was. Now, look, I just want to take this time out to talk about Charles Woodson. We didn't put him in the safety, like Max said, but he was a very great safety. It's just I feel like Rod Woodson was at a little bit different level than Charles. Charles was really good. He made a couple of all-pros for safety, but when you think of Charles Woodson, I truly think it's corner. I don't think it's safety. He was known as a corner. But if we had to rank Charles Woodson, I will put him probably like, C, B tier as a safety. As a safety. But don't worry. When we get to corners, we'll talk plenty about Charles Woodson.
Nah, we won't. We'll skip him just because Juan's got to glaze him for another 20 minutes. We're talking about Rod Woodson.
Okay.
But to me, this is an S tier. He's the boss. That rounds it out. There's no one else to me.
Not even your. No, hold on. Let's talk about glazing. Let's get to your boy, because I know it took a while to get to him. Let's talk about Brian Dawkins.
I know. If this was a Raider, he'd be like the third guy out of your mouth.
So look,
dude, Brian Dawkins, I want to one. I can't. I love him so much.
This sparked up a conversation between me and Max. So we go through a lot of these safeties, look at their resumes, and Brian Dawkins came up, and Max was like, "Oh no, man, low key S tier for Brian Dawkins," and I'm like, I don't know, dog. Like, I don't think he's Ed Reed. But look, Brian Dawkins, another guy where if this guy didn't get you hyped to play football, like, you don't have a post, bro. Like, one thing that I remember about Brian Dawkins is the legendary, like, pre-game speeches, the legendary pre-game intros coming out of the tunnel. Looking like a damn freaking animal, bro. Like,
Wolverine.
Talking to himself, bro. Like, nickname Weapon X, one of the greatest freaking nicknames ever, and Wolverines. NFL record for most forced fumbles by a safety with 36. Max, anything else to say
about
Brian Dawkins?
That's a lot. That's an outrageous amount. I'll say this. Look, he's got 5 All-Pros, 4 first teams, 1 second team, 9 Pro Bowls, a member of the 2000s decade team. He was the guy before Ed Reed showed up. He was the guy from like 2001 to 2005, when then Ed Reed just was like, I got it from here, guys. Look, his cover skills were good, but that's not what he was known for. He was the physical. Like, this was the Kam Chancellor before Kam Chancellor. Like, he wasn't just going to tackle you. He was going to deliver the wood. He was going to kill Algie Crumpler in the NFC Championship game, break his rib. This was the guy. And he not a gigantic guy, not the 6'4" like monster. He was a shorter guy. He was like 5'11", 6 feet tall. But 36 forced fumbles is outrageous. It's outrageous, man.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. This is a guy, to me, where I don't know if the NFL lore will hold him in as high regards to me, because I'm an Eagles fan and I'm biased, I'm sure. But this is an A-tier safety. This is this was one of the guys, especially growing up, especially with this list. Like, maybe if we include the old dogs and we kind of have to move everything around. But for this list, the guys we're talking about, I don't see how he's on A-tier.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
I completely agree. He's A-tier. Someone can arguably make a case for S tier depending on how you feel, but I just think, like, this is the whole purpose. Like, some guys are gonna lose out because there's levels to this shit, bro. And I just feel like Brian Dawkins, he's kind of like in the Troy Polamalu sense, where it's like some of these guys hold so close to some certain guys' hearts. You're a Steeler fan. Polamalu was your guy. He's an S tier.
I will say this, as an Eagles fan, I would say safely, he's behind Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu was a better player than Brian Dawkins, in my opinion.
Yeah.
As much as it pains me to say. But that's just me trying to be unbiased.
Right. Okay. Anything else on your boy Weapon X, man?
No. I mean, like you said, there's not a guy who kind of encapsulates the 2000s more than him. Like, he was one of the guys.
Okay, so I want to throw 2 of these guys in here because I feel like it's took a while for us to get here, and some people are going to feel like we're disrespecting them, but there's just a lot of safeties. Let's go to John Lynch and Steve Atwater. Let's talk about both of those guys, because I know some Donkey fans that hold Steve Atwater pretty close to their heart, all right? Steve Atwater, part of the 90s decade team. Obviously a Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champion, 4-time All-Pro, 2 first teams, 2 second teams, a shit ton of Pro Bowls. Stack those up. Legend score 68. Waited 16 years to get into the Hall of Fame. Class of
That's
2020.
crazy. That's outrageous.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
24 interceptions, 6 forced fumbles, just about 1,100
how did
tackles.
he only force 6? That's what I was like. That's crazy that he only forced 6. I don't think they were tracking him for some of the years. But to me, this is an A-tier guy. He was a really good player. And I think, there's 4 years where you could be like, well, he was an all-pro. He's one of the best safeties. He delivered the boom, good in coverage, big presence on some of the best teams of the 90s. Denver, I mean, they got blown out every Super Bowl, but he was still a vital part of it. One of the best players on their defense.
Yeah.
I know you hate Denver, so I'm kind of curious what you think. And then, I mean, nothing was the same since Christian Okoye murdered him on live TV.
Right.
But like he still dished it out more than he got.
Yes.
Though. Yeah. He still killed more.
I wouldn't consider him getting got. I feel like it was 2 Clash of the Titans coming together and just like it reminds me of
immovable object he's unstoppable force.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Earl Campbell and what's his name going at it and joining
Jack Tatum.
I want to say it was Jack Tatum. I might be blanking out right now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But yeah, Clash of Titans and Steve Atwater, man. He obviously, like, the aura of Steve Atwater, I felt like he had some of the best gear back in the day.
We use that word.
Yeah,
aura.
His aura was 100. Like, it was on point, bro. I felt like I liked his fit. He looked really good in like the Orange Crush uniforms. Like, you think of Denver back in the day.
Big shoulder pads.
Yeah, the big shoulder, like your typical like 90s safety, bro. So
he was like Ronnie Lott light. He like really was.
Yeah. But Steve Atwater, great, bro. I would argue that he can possibly be B tier, but I'm gonna put him in the A tier. He's part of an all-decade team. Like he's qualified as hell, man. He's stacked to the gills when it comes to accolades. So let's go Steve Atwater in A, kind of at the bottom. Now let's talk about John Lynch. Okay, so John Lynch, another Bronco guy, most known to be a Buccaneer, though. Now the GM for the 49ers. Max, what are your thoughts about John Lynch?
Arguably a better GM than he was a player, and it says a lot because he was a hell of a player. Won a Super Bowl, 4 All-Pros, 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 9 Pro Bowls. Again, this guy to me was, and we caught him at the end,
right? But
he was feared, man. He was feared. He was like the white safety of the decade. Like, I hate to say it, but like John Lynch could play. He was great in coverage. He was a big part of that Super Bowl team in Tampa. Him, Rondé Barber, Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, all those guys. And again, this guy to me he's a B tier safety. I think he's a little bit under Steve Atwater. Like, he was really good, but to me, he just wasn't. And I caught him at the end, so maybe I'm being a little biased and I'm holding it against it. But I went back and I watched a lot of those games, and he was around the football like crazy, tackling machine, tough, strong, delivered punishment. He was good. I just feel like there's a little bit gap between him and Steve Atwater, or you could put him right next to Steve Atwater. I think they're the same tier of safety.
Yeah, I would say John Lynch is a B safety. That's just my opinion. He's one of those great players, in his time.
A lot of longevity.
Very smart player. Very, very smart. I feel like that gets underrated about him. You hear a lot of coaches and players talk about him. Like, John Lynch was very smart. And I think it's a big testament for him going as a GM. Like, you obviously got to have some type of smarts to be a GM. And he's been doing a damn good job. Yeah. But, John Lynch, B tier. No complaints there. No complaints. If someone wants to argue that he's A tier, go ahead. I wouldn't fight it. I wouldn't fight it all that much. But
because, he has a lot of the same accolades as Steve Atwater. I just think Steve Atwater was just better, to be honest with you.
A touch better. I would agree. Okay, let's go to Darren Woodson. What are your thoughts on Darren Woodson, Max? He's a 3-time.
He had a stretch. He had a 3-year stretch, but I feel like part of it was just, it was 3 years really good. And then it was kind of like he was on a Super Bowl team. It was Dallas Cowboys. You got a lot of like fandom. He had a really good career, 1,400 tackles, 23 interceptions, 12 forced fumbles. Again, this would be a B or top of C type of guy. I just don't think the longevity was there. And when I watched him play, he was good. Like he had 3 first-team All-Pros, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like it was all the soup. Like during that '90s Cowboys run.
Yeah.
And I feel like other than that, he was just like a good safety. So I would think he's more C than anything.
I completely agree. I think he's a C type of guy. He had a really good stretch as far as like, you know, like you said, like those 3-4 years, whatever. But I think he's a C tier guy. When you talk about some of the greatest safeties of all time, it takes a while for you to remember his name. I would just say that.
I was shocked he had, like, when we were doing the research, I was like, damn, I didn't realize he had 3 years like that.
Right. Like he had
like that.
Impressive resume, you know. You wouldn't think.
Like I expected 3 second-team All-Pros.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, good for him.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rodney Harrison. Okay. Lots of people love this guy. Deservingly so.
I hated him when he played. I thought he was such a dirty player, but like looking back, like I appreciate, like he was really good. And another guy who just like, man, they just must have hated him, and that's why they didn't give him accolades.
Right.
Because he got 2 Super Bowls, 2 first-team All-Pros, 1 second-team All-Pro, and 2 Pro Bowls. I didn't realize even back then, if you made the All-Pro team, you didn't make the Pro Bowl. I didn't realize it was going on since back then.
Yeah.
This guy to me is one of the most underrated safeties of my time. You know, and I watched, again, I caught him toward like right in the middle part of his career. He was an MFer, bro. He hit hard. He just like played a little like the echo of the whistle, like that Shiano stuff, like punching you dirty, you know, face mask, got away with it. But he was out. He brought an edge.
Yeah, came back from a crazy injury. He messed up his leg pretty bad and came back from that. I would say Rodney Harrison is most known for the helmet catch, unfortunately. That's probably what a lot of people remember him by, you know, getting mossed up. But he tried to make a play on the ball. It's just one of those things where NFL fate had different plans, and you know. But you look back at those.
I saw that play a lot. I saw a lot of plays like that with him where he punched the ball out.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
like we talked about with Steve Atwater, where like he got, but man, Rodney Woodson most of the time was knocking it out.
Yeah. Most definitely. And, you know, part of it is bias with me and Max because we grew up in an era where we hated the Patriots. We were not Patriot fans. And if you weren't a Patriot fan when they were winning, you hated them. There wasn't no in the middle. You hated the Patriots. And Rodney Harrison was a villain. You did not like him. Like Max said, he was looked at as a dirty player. He hit hard. He talked a lot of shit. Now he works for NBC. He's a little bit more toned down nowadays, and I don't think he's all that bad for NBC, to be honest.
He's been there a long time.
Yeah, and I like his insight. He's a very smart, instinctual player. You can argue that he was the poster child of that undefeated team. Like, you have to say his name when you talk about that defense. I would say people remember him more than Richard Seymour, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I would argue that Richard Seymour probably has a better resume and accolades than Rodney Harrison, but that's how
curious
known he
to
was.
think. I know, because we've already talked about where we put him. I'm just curious where you're thinking about it.
I think he should be B tier. What
are you
thinking? Okay.
Bottom of B, top of C.
Yeah. I'm going to put him above John Lynch, too. You think he's better than John?
I don't know if I go that far.
You think he's way at the bottom?
That far. I think he's at the bottom.
Okay. Let's see what's up. Okay. We'll do that later. Okay. I'll just
I just want to save one guy for last. Then I think you know who it is.
Okay.
Because I think he's a very interesting discussion. And we only have a few names left.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go Tyrann Mathieu then. Okay.
Yeah, let's knock him out.
Yeah, let's knock out Tyrann Mathieu. He's a guy that's still playing. So obviously
he's at the end.
Yeah, his stats are not going to be finished totally. Let's see, maybe he can make another Pro Bowl or an All Pro. I wouldn't doubt it. But Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's part of the All-Decade team from the 2010s. He's
shocking a little.
Yeah, a 4-time All-Pro. 3 of them were first team. 1 of them second team. 3-time Pro Bowler. Some of the stats that he has 36 interceptions, 7 forced fumbles, 4 touchdowns. Nickname Honey Badger. I think it's one of the best, nicknames that we've had.
Also doing research, nicknamed the Landlord in Kansas City.
I've never heard that.
That one really stuck. That one stuck. I want to say this. I think it's an interesting case study his career because he came into the league and it was like, is he going to get drafted?
Right.
He was a Heisman Trophy type guy. Failed the drug test, weed. Very different stance on weed now for NFL professional sports.
Yeah.
Got drafted by the Cardinals, Bruce Arians. He was a nickel corner and he was amazing.
Amazing nickel
Then
corner.
they moved him to safety and he was amazing there. He's the honey badger. He's great in coverage. He's tough around the ball. He talked crap to Tom Brady down 28-0 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of the underrated players I think in 10 years we'll forget about him.
Yes.
People will forget about how special he was. And again, he doesn't really have a place to call him home. Like, what would you say was like, if you were going to put him in the Hall of Fame, like in baseball, you have to wear a hat.
Right.
Like, what would his hat be?
I think
I'd
it would
like,
be Kansas City. If you had to pick one, I think it's Kansas City. I think
I would agree with you, but part of me too is like Arizona. He was so like that's when he got good.
Yeah.
And then he makes like a stop in Houston where he's like just dies for a year and no one hears from him.
Right.
And then the Chiefs find him and resurrect him.
Mm-hmm.
This is a top of C, bottom of B guy for me, Juan.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would put him at a D. But at
D?
the top of D. Yeah. We can switch it up. I just feel like he's not gonna. I know his resume is good because you look at like the all decade team, you're like, holy shit, like he made the 2010s all decade team. That's a huge accolade to have. But we can always switch it. I'm leaning towards D right now. And the only reason why I'm leaning towards D is because he really only had a stretch for maybe about 2 years to be considered one of the best safeties in the league. Realistically.
He's got 3 first-team All-Pros, so I feel like that's at least. But I mean, it's 2015, 2019, 2020. That's a big stretch. Yeah. I think D's a disservice. I think he's got to go. It's C. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Let's go to Eric Weddle. Let's go to the Charger. Was that your last guy or no? Right?
No. Yeah, no, I don't care. We can skip him for like no.
Okay, so
I have never been a Weddle guy.
Eric Weddle, he's also part of the 2010s All-Decade team, Super Bowl champion with the LA Rams. He's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 All-Pro player. 2 of them first team, 3 of them second team. Has a shit ton of Pro Bowls. Some of the stats that he has: 29 interceptions, which that's a lot of interceptions, honestly. I didn't really realize that. 8 forced fumbles, 5 touchdowns, co-leader in interceptions in 2011. Max, thoughts on Eric Weddle? Get your hate out.
Weddle was never my cup of tea, especially just watching him play. Like, again, good instincts, good tackling machine in his prime. He just tackled everybody. But his coverage skills always kind of left me kind of wanting more. He had a hell of a career. He was what's crazy is the Rams got him like off the street for their Super Bowl, and he was a player for that.
Yes,
like off the street. I mean, he almost cost him the Bucs game, but I mean, I can't disrespect him enough. I'm not going to disrespect him to the point where like he's a D tier. To me, he's the top of C. I mean, he's got 5 first-team All-Pros, maybe the bottom of B. Like he's got more All-Pros than other guys.
Yeah,
but to me, he was never like. To me, I always thought he was a little bit overrated, in my opinion. But
look,
the player, borderline Hall of Famer.
I feel like for me, since I'm a Raider fan, I seen Eric Weddle a lot, and I learned to appreciate him. I think that's part of it. Why I'm a little bit higher on Eric Weddle. I think he was so smart of a player. I feel like he was tough as nails, and he was really the leader of a lot of those Charger teams. Like when you really look back, it's like Eric Weddle was the captain on the defense. Phillip Rivers was the guy on the offense. And it's unfortunate that sadly, like his Charger career was kind of wasted, or his career was wasted with the Chargers in a sense. I would say like at the tail end of his career, that's really when they started like getting into some things. I remember they had like a couple good years with him, but I'm so happy.
But even the move to Baltimore was kind of like a waste because like those were like the down years for Baltimore.
Yeah,
when he went there.
Yeah,
which is weird, right?
But I feel like it's one of these guys where that 1 year that not 1 year, but that little stretch that he had with the Rams kind of boosted his legacy score a little bit higher in a lot of people's heads, especially for me, where it's like this guy came off the street and freaking fit like a glove into a Super Bowl defense and was a big contributor to it. And I feel like that says a lot about who the player he was. And I feel like when you add that in, it gives them a lot of points, man. And I think we're going to look back at 10 years, 15 years from now. A lot of people are not going to remember Eric Weddle, but at least we'll have this video to look back and be like, we gave him his flowers. We think Eric Weddle is one of the best safeties of all time, to the point where we felt like we had to rank him on this list. So shout out to Eric Weddle. He's a Charger. I hate him, but we got to give him some props. What are we thinking about Eric Weddle? I'm thinking C, maybe at the top of D.
No. You can't put him in D. Come on. No,
so
he's
C.
top. I would say top of C, borderline end of B.
Okay.
Like, as much as I wasn't. Yeah.
All right.
Again, we'll fine tune this right now.
Right.
We have one more guy.
So let's go to your
It's
boy.
an interesting one.
This is your guy, man. I remember first meeting Max. We used to play Madden a lot more back then, but I remember Max was a big Eric Berry guy. Let's talk about your boy Eric Berry, man. He's a member of the 2010s All-Decade team. He won a Comeback Player of the Year. We'll get into that a little bit more in a bit. 3 All-Pro teams, all of them first team. He has 5 Pro Bowls. Stats-wise, 14 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, 5 touchdowns. Look, we obviously know his legacy score and his stats are not going to say much about the player. You kind of had to be there to know who Eric Berry was at that time. Max, I want you to take the floor. Tell us a little bit about Eric Berry.
When he got drafted, and he was drafted 5th overall, there was so much hype about him. And the year they got him, the Chiefs, was like the year from like God, because remember they signed Matt Castle.
Yeah.
Like they kind of just turned it around overnight with Todd Haley, and he was fantastic as a rookie. He was outstanding. He was feared. Like he would deliver the wood. He was super athletic. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL, I think, in his 3rd year, and then he got cancer, and he came back from it. He beat it, and then he just kind of got hurt, and it's kind of like the injuries and the cancer just took away like his prime to me. He got the All-Decade team, and he really had like 4 good years in the NFL. Yeah. Like he was that special for those 4 years. Like again, Ed Reed's at the end of his powers,
right?
Like right now, right? Like 2012, Ed Reed's done. From 2012 to like 2015, it was Eric Berry show, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he was the best safety in football those years, and I just think if he had a healthy run at stuff, he could have challenged for an A-tier type of status.
Yeah,
he was that special.
I would say at the height of his powers, he's definitely an A guy.
Like this is why this list isn't just about like your accolades, because if this was accolades, it's like, okay, Ronnie Lott's 1st, Ed Reed 2nd, Troy Polamalu's 5th. Like, no, Eric Berry was an A-tier type of talent. Yeah. And that's why I would put him firmly in B-tier, because we didn't get enough of him like a Bob Sanders. Like, dude, again, Bob Sanders and Eric Berry go down as 2 of like the biggest what-ifs at the position. Yeah. Like if they could have just stayed healthy, and Eric Berry got cancer, which is out of his control. Yeah. He was outstanding. I mean, you saw him. You saw him twice a year.
Yeah.
What did you think?
No, look, Eric Berry was a fantastic player, man. He was a playmaker. He laid the wood, like you said. He was an all-around safety. He wasn't a one-trick
pony. Had the fingers taped up.
He had the aura, I want to mention aura again. His fit was on point. He was looked at as one of the best safeties in the league, man. And one thing that we got to add to like his legacy score, as far as when you go back and look at him, the fact that he came back from cancer, and I wouldn't say he had like a crazy all-pro year, but he was considered to be like a top 5, at least top 3 safety in the league that year. He was big, and it sucks that his career ended early. You look back and you think, like, what if he would have just not got cancer and just kept on playing? He probably would have been an S-tier guy potentially, but the fact of the matter is he got cancer. He beat it. He couldn't play as long as he wanted, but Eric Berry was a damn good player, man. I always look back at Eric Berry. I always remember the mic'd up from him when he's talking about the horse. And he's get that horse away from me, man. So a lot of great moments with Eric Berry. He tortured the Raiders, man. He would always make some type of play against the Raiders every single freaking year. But shout out to Eric Berry, bro. And you wanted to put him. What we think?
I think B, somewhere in the middle of B. Yeah. I think that's fair. And then before we re-rank everything, I just want to throw out one more thing and have one more quick discussion. If you're cool with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
We didn't include Sean Taylor, guys. Again, I just want to just make a little thing. It wasn't that he wasn't good. He was shot and murdered in a tragic event, and I just wanted to throw him a shout out. You know, he could have been an S tier safety. He was so talented.
Yeah.
He only got to play 3 years. He didn't even get a career. He didn't get a chance, unfortunately. And I didn't want people to think we just kept him off because we thought he sucked. It was just like, you know, I just want to pay him his respect, you know?
Right. Yeah.
There were certain guys we kept off for off the field stuff, and there's a big glaring name. I'm not going to say his name.
Yeah.
But there's a glaring person we kept off because he was a POS. Sean Taylor was murdered, and it's tragic. I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Sean Taylor, man. Big hitter. Sean Taylor was on his way to be one of the greatest safeties of all time, if you really look back at it. So shout out to Sean Taylor.
If we got 3 years, man.
Yeah, if we had to rank him, honestly, he's an A tier guy. If we honestly had to rank him. But unfortunately, his career was cut short. He's definitely one of those, like he has probably the greatest like highlight tape on YouTube. You would argue, like his highlights are insane. They're so
and kids
fun
will
to
always
watch.
know him because Madden always puts like him in the game and is always like, "Yo, this is one of the guys." Like,
right?
Because like people always remember those tragic cases. Unfortunately,
Yeah, exactly.
Like special place.
Exactly. But shout out to Sean.
That was it.
Okay, so let's go to our tier list. Right now in the S tier max, we got Ed Reed, Ronnie Lott, and Rod Woodson. Do we make any changes? And we got Ed Reed first, we got Ronnie Lott second, we got Rod Woodson third.
That's fine. I'm happy.
I'm good with that too.
I just want to say this: it's a close knit bunch. It's not like, damn, Rod Woodson's like all the way at the bottom.
As much as I love Ed Reed, I want to say that he's in his own tier. I really do, but you can't ignore Ronnie Lott. You can't.
Yeah. Or Rod.
Yeah. You just can't with those guys.
Yeah.
Okay, A tier. We got Earl Thomas, we got Troy Polamalu, we got Brian Dawkins, and Steve Atwater.
Okay. Move Earl to third. Troy P's first, Brian, and then Earl. I think that's the order.
We got Earl behind Steve Atwater?
No, before, I think. Before Steve.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Sure. Yes, I would agree. So we got Troy, Brian, Earl, Steve Atwater for A tier. Now we start getting into this B tier. This is our most packed tier right here. We got Bob Sanders, Kam Chancellor, Devin McCourty, Eric Berry, Rodney Harrison, and John Lynch. Do any of these names pop out to be an A tier guy?
I think John Lynch should be moved up to A tier.
Okay. I agree. At the bottom. Exactly.
Okay. And then do we move the order around?
I think so. I would put, as much as I love Bob, I think Kam had a slightly better career. Slightly. Just because he played a little bit longer. He was good for a little bit longer. Just a touch.
Yeah, okay. I'm cool.
What about, do we put Bob second, or is Eric Berry and Devin McCourty or Rodney Harrison?
No, Bob second. Bob won a defensive player. Okay. I mean, he's arguably was better at his peak than Kam, but yeah. I agree. Like, he just barely played.
Yeah. So who's third? We got McCourty, Berry, and Rodney. I'm thinking we put Rodney Harrison third. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I would agree. And then I put Berry fourth.
I completely agree. Let's do that. Okay, so B tier's done. C tier: Miloy, Eric Weddle, Adrian Wilson, Darren Woodson. Adrian Wilson, sorry, I said Woodson. I think Adrian Wilson, Darren Woodson. Who are we thinking? Does any of these guys move up to the B tier? Do they stay? Do they go lower?
I think Weddle should be moved up to the bottom of B.
To the bottom of B.
Yeah, okay. I think you should.
Okay, I'm with that. I think we put Adrian Wilson at the top of this tier.
Yeah, and then I put Darren Woodson.
I completely agree.
Lawyer Miloy's the bottom for me.
Yes. Okay, now we got D tier. We got Tyrann Mathieu, Malcolm Jenkins, and Harrison Smith. I'm thinking Tyrann Mathieu.
I think you bump up Tyrann to
Let's
C.
do
I feel like he's at another tier than those guys.
And I think he's above Laura Miloy then.
I would agree too. I would agree.
So D tier is Malcolm Jenkins and Harrison Smith. I'm putting Malcolm Jenkins ahead of him, and I'm putting Harrison Smith at the very bottom.
I would flip that, to be honest with you.
Really?
I would.
Make your case.
I think Harrison Smith was like he kind of peaked better. Like if that makes sense. Like for like 10 years, he's been the 5th best safety. Malcolm had some years where like he was a corner and he was kind of like eh. Then he was like a really good safety for like 5 years. Like at the end, like when he got to Philly, he was a really good safety. And then when he left New Orleans, like the second time, he was really good. And that was like a 5-year stretch. And that's why I would put.
I'm going to ride with you.
Harrison.
You convinced me because you sparked up a memory from Malcolm Jenkins, and I can't put a guy over Harrison Smith who got punked by Steve Smith. I'm just going to say that.
Sorry, Aqib Talib, but you're screwed for the next list.
So that's our list, man. All right. Maybe we can post this on social media so people can see, start up some debates.
Definitely we'll post
it. We're definitely going to spark up some debates. I feel like who's the biggest guy that we feel like is going to be in the comment section and constantly talked about that we disrespect or
Troy P.
Yes,
Troy
I
P.
completely agree. I think Troy P is going to be one of those guys. And
Darren Woodson, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think people might like be like, you guys are just really like biased for Kam. Really biased.
Yeah. People are probably going to hate the Kam. And I feel like a lot of people are going to hate on the Steve Atwater and Brian Dawkins. I feel like people are going to want to.
Well, maybe the old heads like Paul Krause, but like I feel like we preferenced it. We're like, bro, it's just like, come on. They played 1965.
Right.
Like what? We got to wait 5 more years to post this video where everyone was dead from that time.
And
like,
some of those guys, man, like Donnie Shell and Cliff Harris, like these guys are accolade up. You look at some of their
dude. Ken
their
Houston's got 12 All-Pros. Like he's like S, but it's like, come on, dude. Come on.
Yeah, Kenny Houston.
He's got a black and white picture of you, dude.
Yeah.
And again, I made them graphics. Like the graphics are outstanding. I was like, geez.
Yeah, Ken Houston has a lot of accolades, man. It's pretty freaking crazy. But
like I said, small fish. I mean, big fish in a small pond. Those guys were.
Yeah.
And that's all. And that's okay. And they're still Hall of Famers. They're still legends. I still respect them.
Yeah.
Just not for the sake of this video. We can't.
For the sake of the argument, we're gonna talk about guys that me and Max watched a little bit more and had a little bit more access to. Okay.
I will say this list, the safeties were not as deep. It's going to get a lot worse the more we go on. Like when we get to edge and receiver, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get murdered. Very common.
Exactly. So look, we appreciate you guys rocking with us, man. We hope you guys enjoy this new series. Like Max alluded to, we're going to do almost every single position. Not going to do kicker or punter. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Ray Guy, you know? Shout out to Ray Guy. Long snapper.
John Kondo and John Darnbos. Here we go.
But me and Max are going to do every single position. So quarterback, wide receiver, all that good stuff. I know those are going to be some interesting videos. Really, this sparked up with safeties. I forgot what the conversation was, but like, I don't know, Ed Reed popped up in our head. So this was one of the first videos that we wanted to do for safeties. But look, shout out to Max for making all these graphics, man. Shout out to his cousin for helping him out. He spent a lot of hard freaking time and work into these, and I think they came out pretty damn dope. All right. So look, make sure to hit the like button on this video. Make sure to comment below any thoughts, opinions that you guys have about any of these guys in safety. Tell us your opinion. We'll come at you. We'll talk about it. You know, just come with some smart knowledge, all right? Just don't say like freaking Adrian Wilson should be an S tier. Why? Tell us why, okay? Give us the argument, all right? But Max, any last words before we go?
No, shout out to you guys for watching. You guys have been killing it. We're on the rise. I hope you guys enjoy the series. We got a lot of it coming, and there's going to be a lot of clips, graphic posts, a lot of everything. So
yeah,
please comment. I really want to hear people's thoughts. I'd love to have conversations about football with people who have something to say.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll see you guys next time. We out. Peace.
Everything ain't what it seems. Glittering gold both ways. Not on my team. This organic, we don't buy streams.